Привit, Oleksandr
Hey.
Buratynskyi.
Hello,
I
hello.
have, I'm very happy to have you on. You have a background that people who are looking at the video might be able to recognize, but it is a most green place. In your own words, who is Alexander and where are you?
I'm actually in Kyiv, and who am I? I'm a founder. I'm a coach. Uh, I'm, some kind of an octopus who's doing everything and everywhere for a bit. So I started my career, I would think, in 2012, and it's like an IT career. But before that, I was working in multiple places. I had, like not very well situation in my family. I needed to work from my 16. So, um, mm, you know, I was a merchandiser. I was a promoter. I was selling CDs some time ago when CD with music was still popular. I was in logistics as an operator, just on the phone with the other people, kind of like forwarding the cargo to the places where there should be. And in IT, it was big data, it was fintech, it was logistics also, actually, working on American companies, European companies. I lived in Poland for 3 years, a couple of months in London, working in the city center, so like for Swiss banks. And I was a travel blogger also a bit. That's how my startup started, actually, because we were asked for this solution from our audience on YouTube. It's a smaller audience, not the biggest podcast, of course, like 27,000 people, but still, we appreciate those people, and it was a jump start that we had. So currently I'm in Kyiv, and I'm a volunteer, and I'm an executive coach, and I'm a founder of startup. I would say, Uh,
Well,
like, yeah,
for
it's a short,
starters,
short,
yeah,
short, yeah,
the
short
the
answer.
executive version.
Yeah,
So on your LinkedIn profile, you write down you are Drupal Agile Coach. I have no
yeah.
idea what that is, and basically, I want to say that the people who are listening, many will be, let's say, active operational people, but a lot
Mm-hmm,
will be like me, which are people who really know these words, read about them,
mm-hmm.
but really they're quite far away. As like you say, I think
Okay.
in your piece you talk about people who are old fashioned in their
Mhm.
style, old school. That's me. So what is a Jubal agile
Drupal.
coach?
Jubal is a company. It's the name of the company, and it's a job board that operates in 67 countries. So basically, an aggregation website which aggregates traffic from people who are looking for jobs. Like mostly, it's not white collar, like blue collar, and like aggregates to these websites where this job is. And agile coach is more kind of vague, I would say, thing. It's something that not many people understand. um I simply help business to solve complex problems through the communication, through the trainings, through the workshops, through the facilitation and mediation of conflicts. So it's a very strange mean, but you can imagine, like, uh a coach in football, right? And seeing his team playing. This person did already all the work before on the preparation, right? And then only seeing team playing and shouting some bad words to them, like, come on, you did the exercise, but you don't, put the ball in the
Execute.
in the basket. No, you don't execute something like that. Yeah. So you can imagine that this is a traditional coach, but in the environment of technological companies or product companies, or like just make companies that make shoes. It doesn't matter. It's a coach for this company. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is the more I get into tech, and I'm doing my
Hmm.
own startup that's a tech startup, what I hear are there are so many types of roles that actually need to be everywhere. So I'll take
Yeah.
an example. Marketing, which is where I came from, used to be the marketing department. Well, it turns
Hmm.
out that marketing should have their nose in corporate branding, employer branding, and
Yeah.
how the brand is lived everywhere. Product, the chief product officer, is the interface between business and tech.
Hmm.
Agile coach is someone who, especially when you have, scrum masters and
Yes.
people are kind of involved across the business. It kind of feels like ultimate. And the CEO, of course, should be across the business. HR should be
Mm.
across the business. It feels like we've done so many segmentations and walls that so many
Mhm.
new positions are really all about breaking those down.
Oh yeah, that's actually interesting that you said that for breaking it down, for breaking like for descaling the system a bit, more people, but with a broad horizon of responsibilities, with more intense focus on the soft skills, more T-shape, I would say, or like comp shape even. Like now people are saying that it should be a comp shape, like this octopus, like everywhere and with all your own like specific knowledge you should be everywhere and mm, like old systems old companies and enterprises they if they stable or people if they live in a stable environment they tend to create status quo
Hmm.
and more and more roles like scrum master like agile coach are supportive in a way that to crush this status quo like trying to rebuild it from the scratch or saying okay you have process in the sake of a process but no people are aligned in this no one want this you're sitting in silos in the departments and you don't want to interact as a people you just want to, give some paper, approve it, and give it back. Some such transaction. So very good that you spotted that. More and more people are working in a big, I would say, enterprises, but in the form of a small startup where people are still know each other and treat each other well and communicate more efficiently. So yeah, I think that's um, like the next step will be the progressive, like small communities all around. Like if you treat the business as a small government or something, or a small country, actually. So there will be communities that will. Next big thing will be to align and to collaborate between communities of practices, between communities of people that already T-shape, that already like comp shape.
Well, so great. I love that. I mean, and I being a literature background myself, and having played a lot of sports and
Mm-hmm.
potentially becoming expert in certain areas that are like business and P&Ls and stuff. I've always believed in having a myriad of visions and perspectives to
Mm-hmm.
help. So I've always subscribed to that. So there are lots of things I really want to get into, but I think all of it must be structured around your context.
Mm-hmm.
So the topics that I want us to be able to talk about will translate into peaceful situations for most of the world. However, if it's peaceful, it also is in extremely turbulent times, even for
Yeah.
people outside of Ukraine. And I want to talk about things like resilience and building
Okay.
trust and unity. But let's start with your story, because at the end of the day, if you are a master in agility and you have your book, The 12 Lessons from 12 Years of Working as an Agile Coach,
Yeah.
I should say booklet to be more fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's a brochure booklet. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And you have your own business, tTravel, which I'd like to talk about as well. But you started your business, and then all of a sudden the war comes in and it changes
Yeah.
things. Talk us through, and I'll try to do it breaking it up into pieces, but what you started before the war and how you dealt
Mm.
with the transition into the war.
Actually, I can say about myself that I was very naive we did at the time, like before the war started. I had a couple of processes going. With tTravel, we had like very good spike of user interaction, and we, me and my co-founder, we like 3 days before the war, we were invited to attend Nest bootcamp. It's a special acceleration program that was made by Unit City. It's Ukrainian cluster of IT project, and like 3 days before that, we were on like visiting the new office where we needed to be like for half a year and going through acceleration program. So we were going through all facilities and checking out what's happening, and in the same moment, I had a project that that was like preparing. It's like it was American company, and of course, like many people then was terrified and more, I would say, they were more caring about what will happen than Ukrainians, because Ukrainians will say, okay, we have the war from 2014, right, and it's ongoing, and this is too huge to be true. We had a lot of propaganda that is annoying already. We don't believe in propaganda, so I was very naive and unprepared in some cases, because I was living my dream through working and building my own startup.
Yeah, I think this point is relatable for everybody, because we live in our world and we sort of get comfortable in our world, and we create our story that this is how it is, and then and I want to do this, and when let's say George Bush was whispered in his ear there's been an attack at World Trade Center, the ability to compute massive change like that is, you can see how difficult it was for him, and obviously for you. And yet you knew there's always this you write about in your exclusive unconventional adaptation story amidst war crisis. You talk about how there'd been rumors going around circulating, and the question I have here is, how do you keep your eye on the ball and not wonder whether is this any use, or not wonder. I mean, for me, example, I was running a hairdressing company selling shampoos, and then 9/11 happens, and it just felt like selling shampoos didn't actually mean much.
Yeah.
So how did that, tell us how that was processed before and then right into the news?
From my perspective, we did all the necessary preparation in terms of like people for like, what is resilience, right? Resilience is that you will have plan B, plan C, plan D. You have things covered. You will not get caught. You will not be, I would say, in the middle of bombing. You will not. You will have food. Or you will have light, some energy in your like sockets or something. So with my with the startup, we were just doing what we can, because we survived COVID, and it was funny that like, okay, next full-scale war, and next will be aliens, so it doesn't matter. We just work each day as we can. Ukrainians are joking a lot about aliens, because it will be a next level after we beat Russia. So after all the history that was behind us. So if I'm telling about myself and like a tea company I was in, so we prepared people that some scenarios can be true, some other scenarios. So we're keeping our eye on the ball, and let's not be too naive, and let's not have only plan A. If you need to some funds, to be in your card, let it be another card, and if in case Ukrainian system will banking system will shut down, what do we do? Let's provide another kind of option for our employees. Like if Kyiv will be under siege, like where, like what do we do? Like people should go to the more safer places if they can, or of course we appreciate if they will go and fight for Ukraine and just defending the country. So I would say that, like from the day first, when I woke up at 5 a.m. and my girlfriend said that war started, I was just prepared that I'm staying in Kyiv for sure. I don't leave the Kyiv at all, and I love this country and I want to be here. But I will transfer my girl to her relatives, and I will seek for the way to be helpful. Not only to my company, but to my country and to the place where I live. I want to defend the place where I live somehow. So it was a call on the phone, and then we met under, like, the missiles were blowing all the day, air alarms and some explosions. And we were going through this explosion. Of course, there was a lot of panic, like around. But I was aiming to actually to save my girlfriend, to give to, because I didn't have a car at that moment, and I wanted her to be with relatives who have a car and can go very fast straight out of Kyiv, in a safer places. But my aim was to understand how can I be helpful, and I've seen the lines of volunteers to join the army, and I don't have a lot of health actually, to be like 2-3 years in the army. I have hernias, I have a lot of stuff like that doesn't allow me to even run much. But I'm looking better than I'm feeling it. So 36 years old already feels a bit different.
Yeah. Well,
So
by the way, wait a little bit. It gets
yeah,
worse.
yeah, it gets worse. I believe that. I already know the lesson. So and I came home and actually, like, started to seek for volunteering opportunities. How to be a volunteer, what is needed in terms of food, what is needed in terms of, like, power banks, or like what is needed. We need to do a hacker attack on Russian resources. Okay, I have three laptops, let's do that. So everything that was possible to do, like in the beginning I did. It's kind of, it was not a waiting time, it was a time of new connections. We have our own, like, I have apartment, I don't know, and it's a series of buildings with apartments, right, where I live. But we did like a fence around it, or like maybe if you compare this to the TV series, it was like a Walking Dead series. Like we just made our own. I forgot the word, like in fortress, I would say. That will save us, that will defend us from anyone who come with a rifle or with bad intentions.
Because at this point you've gone through scenarios, and one of them
Yeah.
would be a full invasion of Kyiv.
Yes. Yeah. That was it. I actually thought that it will be a scenario, and that we need to take all the food. We need to prepare our homes. So that was one of the scenarios that I was thinking can be, because, like, we were monitoring the news, and the main channel is Telegram, as you know. Like Telegram still is the main channel of communication, though it was already banned from communication in our government because of security issues or something. But at the
Well,
first
because
days,
it's owned by a Russian.
it's owned by Russian, yeah, and we don't know what's happening, who he's owning what, so like what he has to do, or like I don't know. So and really, I would tell more like in the bad words if we would talk in another language, not in like English, not my native language. I would say it's not like so because it was intense. It was intense, but the main scenario was to defend Kyiv.
So the story that this reminds me of is how after 9/11 in America, in New York, we spent oodles of management time talking about what we should do if there's another attack.
Oh yeah.
So it was afterwards that we ended up thinking about having
course.
an alternative office, and how should we deal with if an airplane comes into our building, and all these other things that ultimately had zero benefit. We had nothing, of course, further to worry about per se. But gosh, do I remember that? And I had this feeling of, oh, this is really important. That sort of sense of this is existential, as opposed to making more shampoos and making the factory line run faster. And the notion I was going to lean into a little bit was this notion of volunteer and unity. When you're defending your country, I think a lot of people today struggle with this idea of nationhood. It's a sort of, let's say, the progressives of the world are saying we don't want to have nations anymore. It's all about the global world.
Oh
and,
yeah. I was the same before full-scale invasion, I can say, yeah.
And then we have ideas of what is hardship. And today in the West, people think someone scratching my BMW is hardship, or someone said a nasty word, black or white is a nasty word, and that's the end of the life, And I feel so we have this idea of unity. Oh, I work for a company. This is my company. But the idea of being a volunteer, of volunteering yourself, that provides another type of engagement that companies so often don't have because they have a paycheck. How do you look at that story of engagement through volunteer and then owning or being part of a company?
So it's a very curious thing to like to even spectate, to see the volunteering phenomena is rising. And I can say that, not all of the Ukrainians are, brave and smart and wanted to stay in Kyiv. And you see that, from my perception, 5% of people stayed, because I really remember that, like first who flee, was a Porsche Cayenne, or like Porsches, like Ferraris and all. They were the first who like from Kyiv. They like the fast track, in the airport or something. So they were going away, and the cars that stayed, they were so, it's like from Mad Max, like very old cars on the diesel, like with the dark smoke from the back.
Lada.
Yes, and we were using those cars, to go to the Kyiv. And by the way, the electricity light,
this is real life. This is proof that you are there.
yeah. This is the proof. Like first of days, I was doing a lot of communication from the shelters, and it was like connection was worse, a lot worse. And always the light was something like that, something white, and I was in half dark. But doesn't matter. Like if
Well, it
we
does
have the right,
matter, actually.
yeah,
It does matter, but you've learned how to
maybe,
deal with it.
but
Yeah.
yeah, actually we learned how to deal with it. And for us, it doesn't matter. It's like the important thing, as you said, what is matters the most, not shampoo, but something more existential. And we, like myself and people that stayed, they were planning one step ahead. They were not thinking about the future. Like we all had the vision of the future, that Ukraine should be independent, prosperous country without any enemy soldiers on our territory. We had it in mind, in our hearts, but the planning was one step ahead. Okay, what next should we do? Kasha, we need to transfer some food to the people. We do that. Borscht for our soldiers, we do it. Next one, power banks, we do it. Next one, hacker attacks, we do it. And so step by step, we did a lot of important things that are currently in our focus. And the planning for the companies that is in Ukraine is kind of agile approach, when you don't plan more than a sprint and a half ahead, because everything could change. So most of the companies even cannot do is like, if you say like in Europe, like what do you do in December, for example? We do strategic sessions for planning 1 year ahead, or like 5 years something. Ukrainian companies saying no, 1 quarter max, and it will be a milestone. It will not be hard plan, and like one sprint ahead of tasks that we should do. That's it. Other things will be as agile as we can, and that is actually shows how resilient company is. Like company can afford to not to plan ahead and move quickly when when new information come, when new things happening or not. So it's interesting. Sorry for being jumping
No,
to
no, no.
corporate world.
I'm totally following you. So what I heard was you have a shared vision of the future of Ukraine,
Yes,
and that
that's
seems to
correct.
be like a meta purpose.
Yeah.
Yet you have to function because who knows what the heck is going to happen tomorrow. And
Yeah.
so there's, and maybe your milestone of having your 10,000th customer by the end of the month. Well, not going to happen because missile.
Yeah.
So that sounds like you have to operate short term.
Yes.
And I'm wondering for companies, because I mean, generally speaking, I would characterize short term thinking as one of the illnesses of business. So on the other hand, you have this vision, the longer term vision of Ukraine, but underneath that, to what extent do you have a longer term vision for the company, even though you're having to operate day by day?
It's I would say that it's short term. It can be treated by illness, uh, like an illness, right? If company doesn't have this roadmap, doesn't have milestones in mind, and it's like everyone should be aligned on actual milestones. It can be shifted in a way that it will not happen in a day that you planned it will happen, but it's an event that should happen when we aligned and we did everything to make it. So like our I forgot the word, but our precious Kirill Budanov, he's how this word is like he's like analogy of mystics agency, but in Ukraine. Um, can you help me, Minto?
I don't know if I can. I don't know this
Secret,
Bogdanov.
like a secret service agent.
Oh, I see. Right, right. FBI, CIA,
Yes,
that kind of
yes,
stuff.
something like that. I forgot the word, unfortunately. But it's like a secret service, and he's thinking in a way that okay, we don't have a like timeline, like November, December, January or something. We don't have a days, but we have events that need to be in
Achieved.
place, need to be
Mm.
achieved, and need to be in place somehow to achieve another event. It should go event by event. And when I'm saying milestone, it's a set of events that needs to be achieved before we can jump into next serious event and next planning, etc. So I wouldn't say that it's like an illness. It's a different vision of what is happening with the company. It's not maybe it will not be a metric, maybe it will not be some value or some money goal, but it for sure will be some series of events and some transformation of companies that happened and that allow us to go to another level.
All right, so this is definitely a foreign idea for me, the idea of milestones as events, as opposed to some sort of KPI, some key performing index and all that. When you have so many changing pieces, keeping unity can be very difficult, because your assessment of a perturbing thing may be, oh, this is nothing. And someone else may think, oh, this is the end of, and I can't do it anymore. And how do you, I mean, I think of this like also in marriage. When you are married with somebody, things happen and you change and evolve, but you basically know, either you don't know that you're there for each other forever, even though there's shit happening now. Keeping that unity through all these changing pieces, what do you think is the key to that for you?
And if I remember, like I didn't say it, but I wanted to say it, but I didn't say, like if remembering, if I'm thinking about the first days of full scale invasion, I remember that we had a policy for many people to make their own choice. So, like, we had people who wanted to just stay safe, and we had people who had this adrenaline rush and wanted to be volunteer, be, had this purpose in their mind and wanted to be helpful. So we kind of separated a bit, and that's how we kept unity. Unity of people who wanted to do something here and now, and people who wanted to get to the safe place and safe zone and be safe first, and then think how they can help to those who are on the front line. So in the first days, unity was like the main thing, because not many people stayed, actually. So sometimes we even, it's a phenomena, but we did even could stay silent for hours, but doing things that matters together. And it's a phenomenon that I think switches on as some primal instinct when there is a like actual existential danger. Those people who you see that what's happening right now in the world, we don't have such unity, because like in some places start to be safer, something is under control. So existential threat isn't so close to many people. It's close to the front line, but it isn't so
Lviv,
close.
Lviv is so much further away.
Yes,
they don't feel it the same way as someone who's living in
if
the
you will come
Donbass.
to if you will come to Lviv, for example, in September, we have in the end of September we have a huge IT conference with many people, and it's safe. And we had only one air alarm, I guess, when I was there in September, at the end of September.
Just one.
Just one. Yeah, it's just one. Yeah. For us, like 3, 4, 5 is a normal thing in Kyiv, because we have like. Yeah, I don't know. Did you know this information? The last month, we had only one night without our attacks by Shahed, by these drones. Like only one night, and the whole month was
Yeah.
sleepless.
So we're
Also,
recording this interview on the 3rd of December. It'll
oh yeah,
be published a little bit afterwards, but so we're
okay.
talking about the month of November 2024. I
No,
can't
yeah, it
imagine.
was November.
I can't imagine what it's like sleeping with fire alarms going on. It's bad enough when a neighbor is got a kid that's running up and down the floor and keeping you awake, and the stomping, but keeping your sanity and your business going without sleep, which constantly being interrupted. How do you personally, Oleksandr, get through that?
For me, it's a mix of actually medication, yeah, because I have my own psychiatrist, I have psychologist, and uh, currently we I already understand we have a lot of channels also in Telegram where people are saying, okay, this is Shahed and it's above some specific district, or it's a missile that is on Odessa or something. So we are always in connection of what is flying from where it and to which point it will get. So for me, I'm sleeping better with medication for sure, but it wasn't always like that. I was sleepless. I was going always into the shelters, and in the first days. Now we just kind of get used to it. I don't know, and understand them shades, like 50 shades of gray, like shades of danger. I would
Sure.
say, and it's like how far Shahed is flying. I can now distinguish by the sound of it.
Mm.
So it's adaptivity
Hmm.
that and the agility of people that are currently in Ukraine, that they understand those shades of danger, and then they can sleep.
So you build up this, you've now got years under your belt, and it must really, such evolved from your very first days. And we talked a little bit about this existential quality that
Mm-hmm.
you are facing for Ukraine. I write a lot about this, and I feel like in the West in general, there's an
Mm-hmm.
existential battle going on as well. It's more of an ideological
Yeah, it's
existential
ideological.
battle,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore gets a lot of people up in arms, excited, emotional, irrational, perhaps, and and therefore the idea of fighting an existential threat and running a business actually describes a lot of people in the West, even
Mm-hmm.
though it's actually not a Russian invasion story. It's a ideological invasion story, and in different forms that it takes. But that speaks to it. And the question for you is the idea of resilience.
Mm-hmm.
I see resilience as being very weak around me in the
Mm-hmm.
privilege of a peaceful Pacific environment.
Mm.
How do you look at building resilience? And if people are listening to this from, let's say, a peaceful place in the rest of the world, what message do you have for them about building resilience?
That's interesting question because I cannot, I cannot tell people just to be resilient, and
No, of course not.
I cannot tell people that okay, now you're in a warm bath. Now you're laying in a warm bath, and everything around
Everything's
you is
great.
everything's so great you cannot even imagine. I cannot say to people, right? Because they will tell, no, I have my own problems. I have these ideological things going on. So I understand that it's a hybrid war, and ideological war is as much important as what is happening on the battlefield. It should come together. It's a mix of wars, and right now in the war, like global war, is about people's minds, and like to be resilient is, for me, I would say, like, to be mature, right? Uh, as I started from the sentence that I was naive. I couldn't
Mm,
believe that full-scale invasion can happen. I was very naive because for me it was a status quo, as was something like a warm bath, although it was after the COVID. But if we compare to the event that happening now, it was a warm bath for sure. So I would say that it's like resilience. It's when you are mature enough to understand what is going on right now in the world, right? That a couple of threats that people are aiming you as a target with their own ideological position, with their own propaganda, with like information war, like war of information is going on. People are aiming you as a target, and it's just to be mature enough to understand that resilience is mm, being a grown-up adult, I would say. Yeah, who's understanding that wars will not stop because people clash with their interest. People have different opinions. There will always be some conflict. It can be verbal, which is pretty safe, but okay, for someone it cannot. It also will not be safe, and it will be existential. Depends on the situation, but if you want to survive, not only survive but thrive in a modern world, you need to understand that this modern world kept all the specifics of historical events, right? We mm, uh, we had this evolution of technology, but the people remain people. They
mhm,
remain to be people, and they still have their own interests. They still crash with their interest. They still have wars. They still have miscommunication. They still don't understand each other and don't want to understand each other in many cases. So I would say that this resilience is equals maturity. And
mm,
if you don't want to be resilient, so it will be bad for you in some way.
mm.
Let's say.
I love that. You write about in your booklet, or actually maybe in your longer piece with regard to your adaptations
I
during the
think
war.
it will be in a longer piece. Yeah.
Yeah, and you talk about retroactive, what it may, and you talk about how in the military you have a after action review
Yeah.
to review things. That felt like for me is about adding perspective.
Mm.
There's the mistakes that happen, and learning how to deal with mistakes. That's one thing.
Yeah.
However, it's also like, wait a second, how bad is this? Am I suffering from food? Nope. Am I suffering from no roof over my head? Nope.
Hmm.
Let's put things into perspective. And I think that is also part of the maturity.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. I totally agree with you because, like, a lot of, as you said, if someone scratched your BMW or something on the West, it treats like existential threat. It's been treated, but it actually isn't. The only existential threat. Yeah, I don't want people to be harmed in any way, but you can just try to visit Ukraine like while you have this opportunity and see what is actually existential threat. You cannot imagine even how many people cured from psychological disease by this full-scale invasion because they understood what is actual danger, like existential danger, and they that I was living by overthinking
Mhm.
my problems all these years because this is danger. This is not like everything I was thought was dangerous for me is not at all.
Yeah,
So
and
this,
I absolutely agree with that, and I've even written about how Maslow's pyramid. We have our
Mm-hmm.
basic needs, and then we get up and up to more abstract, higher order of needs, like fulfillment. And we've gone so overboard in the West that it's really, and you use the word I. It's
Mm,
all about me and what I can do to have full fulfillment,
mm,
and what is my identity and all that. When you go back down, there's another thing which is important, which is also about community. And
yeah,
and at that base level, you're not trying to save all of Ukraine because you can't. You have your fortress in your zone, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to contain our protection as a
yeah,
community, probably 130 people, Dunbar's number, whatever it is,
yes,
150,
I
and so on
think
and so forth.
150.
I want to finish, Alexander, just to talk about two more things. One is what your actual business is, and then how can anybody help you? Come and give you a shout out or anything like that.
Oh, that's something that is different from what we were talking about. Like, imagine people like Ukrainians that are in war, but all they want is to have sincere interest in the products, in what we produce, in what we do, in IT technologies that we provide. So for me, I I I explain my situation. I'm a startup founder, and I'm aiming to do like a global startup about travel. Staying,
tTravel.
yeah, tTravel. It's called tTravel.me, and you can check it out. Uh, and this startup is about being open to the world, being a creator, being an artist, but in the field of travel. Uh, and all that you need to do is to use it. That's it. So helping Ukraine can be not, oh, we need to send some money to buy weapons or
Yeah,
something.
sure.
No, it shouldn't be like only about that. We have funds that are supporting our army. That's only one value stream, I would say, only one
Yeah,
direction. So we have a lot of people who buy medicine, and it's totally okay to only buy medicine, and we really appreciate that. But we have also a lot of startup founders, a lot of people who strive and produce new products, and kind of trying to understand our own like pain, be more empathetic and be more emotional and help the world with something that you just can buy for $7 or instead of your coffee. So like I would say that people can help by just using Ukrainian products, seeking what is there, how can we help technological society in Ukraine, and how can we help like just average people to live their like better lives, I would say.
love it. Well, a shout out to my nephew Dylan and Mark, the Mission for Ukraine. In case that's some way wants to go participate, you should check out their activities. It's great. And as far as you're concerned, Alexander, I'm going to encourage everyone to go see tTravel.me, which is a way to collect your memories while you travel. I've done two travel businesses myself. I took a little
Oh
look at
yeah,
it and I enjoy the idea, uh,
appreciate your feedback.
filling
Yeah,
it out. And hopefully people who have listened had a chance to, to add some perspective to their lives and seek to add a little bit more meaningfulness into what they're doing, including unity and success. So, Alexander, many thanks. Tell us, where can anybody reach you? What's the best ways to contact you?
the best way to contact is through LinkedIn, and yeah, it's the fastest way, I would say.
That's good.
So
All right.
welcome all who wants to reach.
Many thanks, Alexander. We'll stay in touch. I'll let you know when this all goes out. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.